We are the slayers of kings, destroyers of worlds, bringers of ruination and death in all its forms. These things we do in the name of the Emperor and in the defense of mankind. Let none stay our wrath!
The warriors of the Adeptus Astartes are among the greatest heroes of the Imperium. Molded in the image of their venerated Primarchs, some among the Angels of Death are regaled throughout human civilization as paragons and legends. For today, we shall elucidate a captain of the Space Marines, regarded as among the greatest champions within the most prestigious of chapters. The High Suzerain of the Ultramarines, Cato Sicarius. Born on the ocean world of Talassar, the young boy of the planet's noble dynasty began his mastery of martial skill. Capable of wrestling, sword duels, and basic marksmanship by the age of 4, the nobles of the Talassaria Gauge saw great promise and innate talent within the youth. Destined to earn glory for his household in the name of Ultramar, by the age of 10, Cato Sicarius proved to be the physical and mental equal to those double his age and stature. Taught poetry, history, and imperial lore, the scion of the ocean planet would be no mere swordsman, but a statesman and leader in the years to follow. Yet no matter nor manner of softer arts taught to the youth, only the thrill of battle and competition sated his appetite for glory. Inducted into the ranks of the Ultramarines chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, following his successful graduation as an aspirant of the chapter, Sicarius proved his skill in battle. Serving as a company champion under the former captains Idaeus of the 4th Company and Invictus of the 1st Company, both captors incurred no injuries when under the protection of Sicarius. Within mere solar decades, Cato Sicarius earned promotion to the rank of Sergeant of the 2nd Company, his lauded victories earning him innumerable commendations until assuming the role of champion of the Guardians of the Temple. Though young by the standards of a Space Marine, the promise of the Astartes of Talassar could not be denied, and with the passing of centuries, Cato Sicarius earned the rank of Captain of the 2nd Company, the Master of the Watch. Revered for his service made in the name of his chapter, only the authority and prestige of the Chapter Master, Marneus Calgar, and Captain of the 1st Company, Severus Agaman, eclipses that of the Grand Duke of Talassar. Responsible for the defense of the Ultramar system, with the aid of untold thousands of governors, administrators, commanders and generals, Sicarius toiled unwaveringly in defending the territories of the Ultima Segmentum. His years of training from his homeworld, his chapter, and vast campaigns of experience without question, nothing could prepare the Master of the Watch for the invasions of the High Fleet, Behemoth, Tau expansion from the Eastern Fringe, and the Orcs and Necrons constantly besieging the boundaries of Ultramar. Further tasked with judging those of his chapter in breach of the laws outlined by the sacred tome, the Codex Astartes, such tribunals overseen by Sicarius humble those who have erred. Few were foolish enough to challenge the Master of the Watch in trials by combat, for among the histories of every bearer of the title, none have gained a more fearsome reputation as a duelist than Sicarius in 3,000 years of recorded challenges. Earning the title of Knight Champion, should the Ultramarines' honor be challenged, it is Cato Sicarius who must defend its reputation. Conducting such duels within Macragge's Temple of Corrections in observance of the aggrieved party and as many as 100 Ultramarine Astartes, the results of such martial bouts conducted by the Knight Champion always end in his favor. Armed with the ancient Talassarian Tempest Blade, this potent power sword is capable of carving through the thickest of plate with only a single strike, and when paired with his Artificer Plasma Pistol, is devastating in close quarters combat. Clad in his Artificer armor, known as the Mantle of the Suzerain, its protective qualities match even that of tactical dreadnought armor, also known as Terminator armor. His ornate left pauldron, once belonging to the panoply worn by the hero of the chapter, Captain Aura, during the Great Scouring. The relic from the original captain of the second company of the chapter instills pride within the heart of Sicarius. Adopting the heraldic colors of the second company, his helmet adorned with the suzerain's mantle, earned from his acts of bravery wresting control of the fort of Telendra for 9 solar days, the badge of the Bolts of Talasar prove his authority to command his homeworld's dukedom. The golden aquila, embellishing his left pauldron, marking his position as the Grand Duke of Talasar. The warrior's cross on his knee plate marks him as a noble-born son of Ultramar, whilst plaudits such as the Victorix Alpha, Laurels of Victory, Valor Crest, and Eternium Ultra openly displays his honors won in battle. Though famed for his many campaigns won in the name of the Imperium, the assault on Black Reach is retold far and wide as among the High Suzerain's greatest victories. Many within the chapter regard Sicarius as too brash to command a battle company, and though he was a brilliant warrior beyond peer, his reckless nature was ill-suited as a leader of men. Black Reach, an imperial hive world beset by the Orc War of warboss Zanzag, tested the second company to their limits. During 855.M41, the Greenskins invaded Black Reach and its sister planets, Jadeoch and Voldemach, with the cunning warlord leading his Goth clan to claim the resource-poor, yet strategically valuable system. Surrounded by asteroid belts dense enough to conceal swarms of Xenos filth, the Ultramarines could not allow the infestation of such a stubborn species such as the Orcs to take root, for they would prove capable of surviving for solar centuries if left unchecked. Difficult to maintain communications with due to the planet's magnetic elements, should Black Reach fall, the enemies of the Imperium could burgeon within its confines before spilling out once more to infect more of the Emperor's domain. Spilling forth from the wormhole known as Jorgen's Eye, though none can ascertain the means of how the Orcs utilized the likely Eldar-constructed maneuver, all that mattered was the extermination of their presence. Unable to gauge the size of Zanzag's war, the Ultramarines tasked the Second Battle Company and their heroic captain to stem the Greenskin tide. Assisted by the Imperial Navy, as they conducted planet strikes of plasma and melter warhead bombardments, the Guardians of the Temple readied Sicarius' personal Thunderhawk gunship, Gladius, to make planetfall. Reinforcing the Imperial garrison of the planet, Cato Sicarius sought to behead the warlord personally and hurl the Orcs back into the dwellings from whence they came. Locating the war boss by observing where the Orc presence was thickest, though a simple plan, its efficacy proved to be sound. Leading the charge of his audacious strategy, Cato Sicarius carved a swathe through the Orcs outside the walls of Gospora Hive, with a full complement of his Terminator squad, Helios, at his side. Facing Zanzag in battle, Cato Sicarius forced the warlord to retreat from the wrath of the Ultramarines. Foreseeing the cowardice of the Greenskin, Sicarius had prepared Thunderfire cannons to mow down any retreating from the fray. As the Orcs continued to besiege the strongholds of Black Reach, the planetary defense forces of Hive Sulphura requested aid from the Second Company. Torn between his oath to slay the war boss and preserve the lives of the subjects of the Imperium, Captain Cato Sicarius abandoned his hunt for the war boss and bolstered the defense of Hive Sulphura. With the Hive defended, all trace of Zanzag could not be found, requiring Sicarius to task the veteran scout sergeant, Torius Telion, with locating the Xenos' lair. Tracking the creature through use of beacons placed on ramshackle looter vehicles, with the war boss located, Sicarius' wrath would not be denied a second time. Gladius penetrated the waterfall at the mouth of Zanzag's lair, unleashing its deadly cargo of space marines. Fleeing into the tunnels of the hideout, the war boss, though able to escape the minehead of his lair, could not stave off the pursuit of the Ultramarines. Slaying war boss Zanzag, Cato Sicarius' actions, though reckless, had achieved victory. 12 space marines of the Second Company had perished, including a Terminator of Squad Helios, yet the honor of Macragge's sons had been preserved. Leading lightning strike assaults against the remaining Orc positions upon Black Reach, the Orc war slowly diminished without a leader to rally its forces. Departing from Black Reach as the mortal warriors of the garrison continued to root out the greenskin infestation, Cato Sicarius returned to his chapter, having slain 10,000 Orcs after expending every round of ammunition available and dulling every edge of their combat blades and chainswords. For while victory had been achieved, with the return of the Master of the Watch to Macragge, many within the chapter deemed the cost of victory to be too great. 20 years following the assault on Black Reach, another great trial would be thrust upon the Duke of Talassar. During 878.M41, Makar the Reborn, Demon Prince of the Word-Bearers, led his band of renegade pirates into the heart of Ultramar. Confronted by the Master of the Watch, within proximity of the Helemea Rift, the strike cruiser Valin's Revenge and its escorts destroyed the majority of Makar's fleet before the Knight Champion faced the Pawn of Chaos. Failing to slay his foe, Makar retreated into the Warp and would harry Ultramar years later, seeking vengeance against the High Suzerain. Imprisoned during his second invasion of Ultramar by Chapter Master Marneus Calgar within the Warp Core of the Starfort, Indomitable, the Warsmith Honsu of the Iron Warriors would free the Demon Prince from its confines. Possessing Brother Dreadnought Altarian of the Ultramarines, Makar began to bend Honsu's army to his own will, dubbing them the Bloodborne. Assaulting the ocean world of Talassar as reprisal for his humbling by the Knight Champion, the Duke of Talassar would not stand idly by whilst his people suffered. Following Master Calgar and Chief Librarian Varo Tigurius' defense of the fortress of Castra Tanagra, the two managed to sever Makar's tether to the warp core of the Indomitable and rally the First Company to combat the Demon Prince. At the head of his Second Company, and aided by Uriel Ventris and his own Fourth Company, Cato Sicarius faced the demon. Captain Ventris pronounced Makar's mortal name and threw the dagger known as the Shard of Erebus, retrieved from the grave of the hero of Calth, Remus Ventanus, to Chapter Master Calgar. Stabbing Makar with its edge, the power of the Athame Shard destroyed Makar's essence, allowing for the true death of the Champion of Chaos. The people of Talassar had been saved, and a powerful scion of the ruinous powers slain forevermore. Yet the greatest test of Cato Sicarius still lay in wait. During 974.M41, the Necrons of the Infinite Empire overran the mining world of Damnos. A resource-rich tomb world harboring untold numbers of Necrodermis slaves, the Gauss pylons erected by the ancient Xenos prevented heavy ground weaponry from combating their forces. Inserting via drop pod assault, Chief Librarian Tigurius took to the field, tasked with destroying the Necron artillery within the hills of Thanatos, whilst Captain Sicarius relieved the liberation efforts of the capital city, Kellenport. For with the artillery destroyed, the Ultramarines could take to the field within Thunderhawk gunships and harry the Necron armies. Placing melter bombs upon a monolith at the heart of the war zone, Sicarius bought time for Tigurius' strike team as he subsequently waded through the hordes of Necrons. Confronting their overlord, known as the Undying, the Necron proved to be a match for the Knight Champion. Injured by the Overlord's war scythe as it bit deep into his torso, the valor of Venerable Dreadnought Agrippan saved the captain from perishing in battle. Crushing the Overlord beneath his chassis, the Necrons fell back from their offensive lines and took up defensive positions. Tigurius succeeded in destroying the Gauss pylon battery, and with reinforcements taking to the field, the Ultramarines evacuated the citizens of Damnos. Unable to reclaim the planet into the fold of the Imperium, the Damnos incident remained a stain on the chapter's honor for years to come. Classifying Damnos as a forbidden world by the Imperium, Cato Sicarius seethed as he recovered from his wounds and swore to one day reclaim the mining world in the name of the Emperor. Never had the Master of the Watch suffered defeat, and he found the taste of it bitter. The scar left on his chest a reminder of his failure to destroy the Necrons. For 25 years, Sicarius reflected on the incident, nurturing his hatred of the Xenos until the day of retribution came. Every victory following this day, such as the fall of Medusa 5 and Zeist campaign, were marred by Damnos. Despite reclaiming 26 worlds from the clutches of the Tau Empire through joint campaigns alongside Storward Astartes chapters such as the Night Watch, Halo Dragons, Silver Skulls, and Crimson Fists, all noted the dour change in Sicarius' countenance. With the news of the resurgence of the Necron Empire during the 41st millennium, the High Lords of Terra and Fabricator General of Mars could not allow such malevolent foes to secure footholds across the stars unimpeded, especially within the domain of Ultramar. Ordering the Ultramarines to reclaim Damnos in the name of the Imperium, Cato Sicarius relished the chance to redeem his honor. During 999.M41, Squad Lazarius of the Death Watch delivered their orders to Chapter Master Marneus Calgar. Displeased with the decree from the Throne World, Calgar knew that their previous failure had only stoked the wrath of a fraction of the Necron's forces on Damnos, and was not willing to sacrifice his men for such a foolhardy campaign. Such a battle risked hundreds of Astartes' lives, and could not be made lightly. Yet Calgar knew that even he could not deny that such a threat could not be allowed to burgeon. Deploying the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and elements of the 10th companies to Damnos, the Ultramarines began their dangerous task. Reinvigorated with purpose, Cato Sicarius took to the campaign with glee, with many claiming that he fought as if possessed by righteous fury within the training cages of the fleet as they traversed to Damnos. 500 Ultramarines descended upon the planet, their hearts filled with righteous purpose and a duty to absolve themselves of their past defeat. Sergeant Davian Emocles of the Death Watch, once said to be a squadmate of Cato Sicarius, gifted the High Suzerain with a devastatingly powerful vortex grenade prior to the invasion and wished him well in his quest to redeem himself. Drawing the fire of the Gauss pylons on the planet's surface, the drop pod invasion of the Ultramarines' first wave distracted the Necrons, with the true strength of their forces descending within the second wave. Destroying the pyramidal complexes tied to the Necrons' power grid, the warriors of Ultramar could not have known that beneath the surface of Damnos, a transcendent Catan shard had been interred within a Tesseract vault. Knowing this to be the source of the Necrons' power, the Ultramarines devised a means to defeat this ancient demigod. The strategic brilliance of Marneus Calgar, countered at every turn by the Necrons' machine logic of the renewed Undying Necron Overlord, the protective shielding of the planet's monoliths provided by the Tesseract Vault shrugged off all bombardments and heavy weapons fire. Collapsing the shielding by turning the Necrons' own Gauss pylons against them, Marneus Calgar's actions unleashed the imprisoned Catan shard from its constraints. As the Catan turned its attentions to the Undying Overlord, survivors of Squad Lazarius of the Death Watch sabotaged the Overlord's sarcophagus. As the Undying attempted to enact its revivification protocols, melter charges and entropic destabilizers disintegrated its form, atom by atom. Disarray spread among the Necron army, whilst the Catan unleashed its immense power. Captain Sicarius fought a Lord of the Flayed Ones as mayhem consumed the battlefield, his power sword slaying the Flayed Lord and its disgusting thralls. Hurling his vortex grenade at the Catan, with its detonation, an all-consuming void dragged the Catan into the warp before collapsing out of existence. The second battle for Damnos had been won, and with its conclusion, Cato Sicarius breathed a sigh of relief at his 25-year burden lifting from his shoulders. The Death Watch continued to purge the Xenos from the Tomb World, with support elements of the Astra Militarum as the Ultramarines returned home. Though the revelries following such a glorious campaign proved to be short-lived. In the wake of Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade, the Imperium suffered catastrophe. The Cicatrix Maledictum, also known as the Great Rift, rent the galaxy in twain, causing warp travel, chaos incursions, and instances of psychic awakening to sow chaos across the stars. Ultramar was now cut off, and with the forces of chaos emboldened, incurred their wrath. Already having staved off invasion from Warsmith Honshu, Macragge suffered further assault from the forces of the Warmaster. Unleashing its hordes of madmen and heretics, the Black Fleet beset the seat of power within Ultramar as the Ultramarines fought tooth and nail to protect the site of their Primarch's body, the Temple of Hera. Having slumbered within stasis for millennia, following his poison wound received in battle against the Phoenician, Fulgrim, the Ultramarines' Primarch could not be allowed to be slain while he lay dormant. The Second Battle Company, as is their namesake, defended the Temple of Hera within which the Primarch slumbered. Yet whilst they repelled the Black Legion, a band of unlikely allies arrived within orbit of Macragge. The Celestinian Crusade, comprised of the survivors of Cadia, had with all speed travelled to Ultramar in order to undertake a ritual which could save the Imperium. Fighting their way to the Temple of Hera, Archmagos Belisarius Cawl, Marshal of the Black Templars Amalric, Inquisitor Katarina Greyfax, and Saint Celestine demanded an audience with Chapter Master Marneus Calgar and Grand Master of the Grey Knights, Aldrich Voldus. Presenting the Eldar Ivrain to the assembled humans, the emissary of Iniad promised a means to revive the fallen Primarch. Using the Armor of Fate, constructed by Belisarius, and an Eldar ritual to their strange god of death, the Lord of Ultramar could be reborn. Though initially hesitant, the assembled guardians of the Temple of Hera allowed for the ritual to take place, and as the traitors of the Black Legion closed in, bought time for the ritual to be completed. Succeeding in reviving the Primarch, as the Avenging Sun took to the field despite his long dormancy, the millennia had not softened his martial prowess. Repelling the Black Legion from Macragge, as Cato Sicarius fought at the side of his reborn Genesire, his heart swelled with pride. Selecting Cato Sicarius to serve as his lieutenant during his Terran Crusade, Chapter Master Marneus Calgar and the Chapter were tasked with defending Ultramar, whilst elements of the 1st, 2nd and 3rd Companies joined their Primarch in their venture to reach the Throne World. Fighting by the side of the Celestinians and Grey Knights, Sicarius took up his new responsibility as the leader of his Primarch's Victrix Guard, formed of the Chapter's elite warriors. Facing the foes of humanity during the Crusade to reach Terra, Cato Sicarius battled the traitors of the Red Corsairs and Thousand Sons, and never faltered in his duty to defend his Primarch. Successful in their objective of reaching the Imperial Palace, Rabute Guilliman sought counsel from the Emperor, while Sicarius and his men stood vigil outside the Eternity Gate of the Throne Room. Restored as the resurgent Lord Commander of the Imperium the following day, Rabute Guilliman began his great task of rebuilding humanity from its tattered fragments. The Indomitus Crusade would prove to be the single most powerful counteroffensive launched by the Imperium in millennia, and with a Primarch at its spear tip, none could hope to defeat the Avenging Sun's armies. Dispatching the first wave of reinforcements of the Primaris Space Marines, developed in secret by Belisarius Cawl, Cato Sicarius would be tasked with commanding the small armada fleet, destined to reinforce Macragge. Dubbed Fleet Avenger, the armada breached the warp storms impeding their path, their duty to reach Ultramar, forcing them to endure the horrors inflicted by the warp. As the fleet scattered within the tides of the Immaterium, Cato Sicarius ordered each vessel to independently reach Macragge, and prayed to the Emperor that they shall find safe harbor. As the Astronomicon faded, Cato Sicarius' flagship, Emperor's Will, became subsumed by the warp, sending out one final transmission to any within reach of its broadcast. Only one sentence of this message managed to be decoded. They have breached the hull. They are here. Half of Fleet Avenger reached the sanctuary of Ultramar, their cargo of Primaris Space Marines gladly integrated into the battle-scarred chapter of the Ultramarines. with Sicarius marked as missing in action by the chapter. Though regarded as the captain of the Second Company, a new Master of the Watch was required. Captain Acheran assumed the command of the Guardians of the Temple, while Sicarius fought to escape the Immaterium. Enduring the trials of the Warp, Sicarius managed to escape from its clutches and rejoin his liege during the Indomitus Crusade. Rejoicing at the hero of the chapter, despite the former captain's reunion, the position of Master of the Watch remained the responsibility of Captain Acheran. Mentoring the zealous captain for years of reconquest, Roboute Guilliman saw in Sicarius' brash and stubborn nature the legacy of his unorthodox gene-son of millennia past, Aeonid Fiel. Molding Sicarius into a leader worthy of his martial skill, Cato Sicarius, under the wing of the Avenging Sun, soon faced the greatest perils of his service to the chapter. Combating the forces of Nurgle during the Plague Wars of Ultramar, Sicarius, though scarred from his endeavors within the Warp, never faltered in his duty to lead the Victrix Guard. Witnessing the injury and seeming death of his Primarch at the hands of the Demon Prince, Mortarion, for a moment, Cato Sicarius came close to being overwhelmed at the loss of the Avenging Sun. Yet with the intervention of the Emperor himself, such a fate was denied, and once filled with the holy light of the Master of Mankind, the Avenging Sun banished the Pale King back into the Immaterium and burned the Garden of Nurgle. Earning countless glories in the name of the Ultramarines, Cato Sicarius continues to serve as his Primarch's champion and paragon of his creed, with many assuming him to succeed as chapter master, following the inevitable death of Marneus Calgar. For in the dark days of the 42nd millennium, every soul shall be required to combat the darkness, and few shine brighter than the High Suzerain of Ultramar.
"Wait, Sire Warrior,"
it said in perfect High Gothic.
"I am no threat to you. I am regarded poorly even among my own kind."
Numitor's brow furrowed. The creature's voice was strangely human. Somehow, it was speaking with the tones of a young woman, and with a Macraggian accent at that.
"You have the bearing of a knight, sire,"
it said, its accent becoming even more refined.
"An honored and noble warrior tradition. I see it in the heraldic devices you wear. They are marks of your forefathers, are they not?"
Numitor raised his pistol, debating whether or not to waste another bolt. The creature knew too much about them already. That was plain.
"Would your forefathers be proud to see you cut down a helpless, unarmed female?"
asked the young Tau, her honeyed voice all innocence, but for the barest hint of reproach.
"Would the king among kings you must venerate be impressed? He whose code you follow?"
Numitor thought of Roboute Guilliman in that instant, of how the Primarch would have acted in this situation. In truth, he was unsure.
Yes,
said Cato Sicarius, barreling past his fellow sergeant to stamp the creature hard into the floor. Numitor hears its ribs break into flinters within its chest. Sicarius spat on its corpse, pushing onwards into the gloom. This has been a tale of the Great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Cato Sicarius is among the greatest heroes, not just of his chapter, but of the Imperium entire. Though young for an Astartes of his senior rank, none can deny the efficacy and glories earned by the Duke of Talassar. So too shall you earn valor in life, should you strive to exceed the expectations of others. Yet be vigilant, not to fall to the barbs of those who envy your prestige. And be not afraid to proclaim your greatest accomplishments, should you temper them with humility and gratefulness.